On April 1st, 2021, I ditched a career I absolutely hated to better myself and do the things I've always wanted to do. And that included my growing love and obsession with Ireland. I want to learn everything: culture, history, mythology, music, and the language. Which, if I'm being honest, looks really hard to learn, but I'm going to give it the old Smith try. Then, of course, there is my love of pubs and the role that they've played throughout history, and no better example of that than on that beautiful, beleaguered island in the North Atlantic, Ireland. April 1st, 2026, I depart for the Emerald Isle, and for 1 year, I'll hike town by town and conduct interviews with pub owners, pub regulars, historians, town know-it-alls, musicians, and basically anybody that wants to talk to me. If you'd like to support the project and the journey, basic Patreon support is only $3 a month, but just liking a video or subscribing to the channel and following the journey is just as helpful. I'm always looking for volunteers to work as liaisons for the project too, so if you live in Ireland and know people, feel free to hit me up. This is a huge goal and I need all the help I can get. The Smitty Learns Irish Pubcast begins April 26th and will be my life's work. Thank you. And welcome to the What the Hell Everything podcast. My name is Smitty. Thank you for joining me, and if you've been following my journey for any length of time, or if you're new to the podcast, I'm borderline obsessed with Ireland. I have a Irish history-centric podcast coming up in a couple years where I hike Ireland for a year and tell the story of each town. Not each town, but a lot of towns. And in my borderline obsessive research, I stumbled across some of the most wonderful content creators in Ireland, specifically Claire Cullen. Do you want to do a little intro period going into this thing? Does that sound all right? Little kind of get
just
to know
introduce
Claire.
me. So my name is Claire. I go by Claire on the internet. I do a lot of content that is related to Ireland and kind of living in Ireland, being Irish. I have a couple of series. One is where I do the coolest things there is to do in Ireland, and one is where I find the coolest accommodation in Ireland. So, it's good fun. I've done things like wrestled an alligator, gone to Father Ted's house for tea. I've recently went to the Puka Festival, which is a video I'm working on now. I've been to the Duro Scarecrow Festival, all mad stuff all around Ireland. And I've also stayed in Airbnbs like a land boat, a bus, a castle.
Yeah,
a boat,
you
an
have
boat.
You have a fantastic series. You have the Airbnb series. You have the Irish Bucket List series, which was right up my alley. I found you obviously on the Tri Channel.
I should say just that just for legal reasons, it's Airbnb.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, let's get it right. Era. So okay, we're gonna get into Irish,
like Ireland, like the Irish word for Ireland. Era.
That makes total sense. Okay, I didn't. I watched you obviously on the Tri Channel, and then just really fell in love with that whole cast of characters, and really just started following everybody.
I should probably acknowledge that, and introduce that as well. So I am part of a collective channel on YouTube called the Tri Channel, which is where a load of Irish people who are all mates just sit around in a room and try things, and it's become popular kind of, I think, beyond any of our wildest dreams. And so a lot of people find me through that.
It's fantastic. I just started following everybody and then really gravitating towards your content because, what I'm going to do is go visit the island for a year and hike the island and explore everything really, the history, the culture, the music, and do interviews from pubs. So I was talking to an Irish guy, reached out, and he said, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to just do the touristy things? And I'm going to do that stuff because I think I kind of have to. But I don't want to do what the locals are doing. I want to go hang and see the things that not many Americans are seeing. That's kind of the goal. So seeing your channel and really the Irish Bucket List, and it is the perfect way to find the cool shit to do in Ireland. I mean, you really are nailing it.
That's kind of my intention with the whole thing. So there's lots of different elements to it. There's the YouTube series. I've kind of done supplementary stuff. Like I've created a 2024 festival and events calendar. and kind of tried to focus on the quirky ones you might not know about. And I have that up in my website as a poster. I briefly was working on an Irish bucket list book, but that didn't come to fruition. But it may raise its head again. But what I'm currently working on now is there's a company that does scratchable maps. And so they're working with me on like a map of Ireland, and you scratch off when you've done things. So there's loads of like different versions of it I can do, and so that people can take it in any way they want if they don't want to watch the videos or they just want to see like a calendar of events. But either way, the whole idea is to just tell people what's on, and especially the stuff that's like not obvious. Like I obviously will at some point do the Blarney Stone, of course I will, but I want to tell everyone about all the other cool things there is to do first, like the Scarecrow Festival, like the Steam Threshing Festival, like all of these things that I didn't know was happening until I started doing the research for this series and started going to these things.
Well, that was one thing that I was kind of hemming and hawing when we were talking about doing, when we were going to do this chat. Well, what do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on the tour guide aspect of things to see, or do we want to focus on the history thing? Because I'm interested in both things. But I'm realizing that it seems like history is just intrinsically in everything that you see and do over there. So it's not like you got to look too far to find it. You just got to pay attention.
Exactly. And actually, that's something I'm finding a lot more recently. So I would have always said, like, I'm not very good at history. It was one of my strongest subjects in school, which to my dad's eternal shame because he was a history teacher. But the thing is that I think it's as I get older, and I'm in my 30s now, that I really start to get interested in history. And I'm seeing it now everywhere I go. And I'm kind of putting more of it into the videos as well. And I'm trying to do it in a way that's still entertaining. But I do think it's really interesting. Like the Puka Festival one that I'm working on is a Halloween festival. Massive Halloween festival in Meath, and it's all based around the old Irish pagan festival of Samhain. And so, there was lots going on, and they kind of have married the new sort of Hollywood version, I guess, of Halloween with the scary stuff and all that. And they've married that with all of the old traditional stuff. So, they have like Viking reenactors. They had this big, like, they had a pyrotechnics show, which was class, and then they had like this storytelling projection on the wall of Trim Castle, where they told the story of all of the old legend. I can't think of the word, but like the mythical, all the legendary mythical like creatures and people from Irish mythology, that fed into this festival over the years, so it's really intrinsically linked in. What I've noticed as well is that storytelling is such a huge part of every single festival I go to. Like there's always some kind of story to be told about the festival or where it came from and the history behind it. And I think I think Irish people have always been storytellers, and everything we do has a story attached to it.
That's kind of what I'm finding out more and more as I research and read and check out podcasts, is just how, I know you said you weren't very good at history, but I feel like it's still... Irish people, it just seems to be in there where you just are just aware of it in a way that Americans aren't. Probably in Great Britain, like nobody in fucking Great Britain even knows that Ireland is, or excuse me, Northern Ireland or Ireland. I can't even remember the confusion that gets involved. I was listening to some podcast, and nobody even knows that they're split or that Ireland is independent or anything like that. Nobody knows the history is kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, well, I would say that like that's another element as well, like the actual history in terms of the 1916 Rising and our independence and all that. But that comes up in a couple of tours I've done. Like I've done a couple of storytelling tours that talk about the 1916 Rising. I'm working on another video where I did a walking tour in Ballina, County Mayo, where they talked about like the history of the women in Ballina that were sent to Australia during the famine. Things like that also come out of my videos. But then there's like the more lighthearted side as well, which is where you get the like mythological stories and the kind of Irish legends and Chearnanog and Cuchulainn and all that. So you do both of those versions of history do come up quite a lot.
Bringing up a couple of your videos that you've done that I've watched recently. I don't know, a few weeks ago, I think you did a ghost bus tour or something about the
Yes.
plague in
Yes.
Dublin. And there was the fucking best line. I swear too much. And one thing I notice about
I swear a
Irish
lot
people
as
tend to
well.
swear quite a bit.
Yeah.
But there was that line that this tour guide was giving in that tour. Something along the lines of the priest or whomever said that the reason that there was a plague was because all of the swearing in Dublin, and since back then it has been an issue. Do you catch shit for swearing on your podcast from viewers, from any, or is it just kind of at the point now where you're like, we just know?
Only from Americans.
Honestly, it's I just
Like Irish people do not care. We swear all the time. And I feel like the Brits are the same as well. Like anytime somebody gives out to me, it ends up being someone from America being like, "You cuss too much."
I knew it. I knew it.
Cuss gives it away as well because we don't say that. We say curse
Oh, really?
with an
Oh,
R.
damn,
Yeah, we
damn.
don't say cuss.
Another one, and I know you had a hard time describing it in the video, but the soundest town in Ireland. It was, I'm trying to remember the line that the tour guide was given that one. It was something to the effect of, if you can't talk when you get here, I'm paraphrasing. If you can't talk when you get here, you'll be able to talk when you leave. And
Yeah.
that seems like my kind of town. It seems like that. It seems where you go and everybody's friendly and everybody wants to chit chat and everybody. So when you're trying to describe the soundest town, what's I guess the question I'm asking is describe it. I'm trying to figure out what it means.
Yeah, so well, the word sound, I think, was what I kind of had difficulty describing because it's a very Irish ism. And basically, like, if someone is sound, like, that is one of the highest compliments you can be given. It's a really positive on your personality. And it means, I suppose that it technically means different things to different people. But I would like, if somebody was sound, you'd know that, like, I would assume that they were, outgoing and they were talkative and they were friendly and they would help you if you were in need or they might have a good sense of humor. Like, I guess it does mean different things to different people, but the fundamental idea of being sound is like positive. Like, if someone's sound, that is the highest compliment you can be given. It's a personality related, you have a deadly personality, I suppose, is the way to say it.
Deadly personality.
Yeah, and then so if the town is sound, you would expect the town to be friendly, chatty. Everybody kind of wants to make you feel at home.
Is
It's
that
just, I mean, it's
is that
very, very like the Ireland of the thousand welcomes. Do you know what I mean? It's very like we're kind of known for that anyway. Listowel in particular, I loved that they loved being named the soundest town. I actually really
is that
liked.
Tralee? Is that
Listowel is its own
Oh, is that the town?
town.
Is List okay?
That's the town, yeah. So I was down in Kerry. It's a town in Kerry. It's near Tralee. But they were named the soundest town in Ireland, and I loved how much they loved that and how excited they were about it because it was like a radio competition, and they were so excited about being the soundest town. And when I was down there, that is a particular town that is really into storytelling, hugely. So they have the Kerry Writers Museum. A lot of really famous writers are from the area. They have statues all over the town of these famous poets and famous writers. And so if you're looking to learn about the Ireland of saints and scholars, poets and writers, that is absolutely a town you have to go to. And yeah, they are pure sound, and everybody will chat away to you, if you want them to.
Oh, I want them to. I want them to. That was one of the funnest things to me. Like you said, it just seems like the everybody, not everybody. That's generalizing, but like, it seems like people like to talk. People like to tell stories in Ireland. That just seems like it's part of the culture.
Yeah, and the more these festivals and events and things I go to, the more I realize that is true, like across the board, And the more you see it, the more you see it, if that makes sense. The more you notice it, the more you start to see it everywhere. But yeah, no, we are. I think it's intrinsically just a part of our DNA that we just like to tell stories. And it's something that I noticed like years ago, right? So you first notice it kind of on nights out, maybe with your friends. And a lot of your conversation will be in stories of things that happened on other nights out. And that'll be kind of that was my first thing of, I was like, I wonder why we always do that. Like we always go out and instead of like, I don't know, talking about the night we're on, we'll all talk about, you remember the time that this happened? And then it sort of expanded out into all the stuff I started going to. And the way that we do it is we tell a story. So the Epic Museum, the Irish Immigration Museum, that's all story based, telling stories of people who emigrated. The walking tour I talked about in Ballina, where they talk about the women who got sent to Australia during the famine. That's all story based. So you're following them around the town, he's showing you things and telling you stories. I do lots of walking tours. The festivals all have a storytelling aspect. The Puka Fest that I just did had a storytelling hour. So it's just everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. I just think it's in our DNA.
You had said earlier that you didn't really get it until later in life, and I know I'd watched a video where you had spent some time in Australia, maybe somewhere else, and then kind of came back and decided to do the Irish Bucket List series. And as you're older and you come back home, was there a part of you that kind of took it for granted, and then you come back home and then started to investigate these things and saying, "Oh, I kind of kind of get it." It's probably not the best way to put it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because when I went over to Australia, I was living there for the guts of a year. As a lot of Irish people did, and still do. They do a year, and Australia was at the time a very popular destination and has remained so ever since. There was a period of time where it was America, but I think we more did America for the summer, the J1 program. And then for the year abroad, most people, Irish people, did Australia or like somewhere in that hemisphere. So I went to Australia and I did lots of touristy things over there. So, I did that thing where you climb the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I did all these different things. Scuba dived in the Great Barrier Reef. And then I was kind of like, God, I've actually never done anything really back at home at this time. And I was like, I should really like look and see what there is to do. Like, I haven't done anything. And then so when I came home, then it was actually the Year of the Gathering. So the Year of the Gathering was this like Tourism Ireland initiative where they wanted to really promote people coming to Ireland. And so it was a year of like packed full of events. And so it just happened to be the perfect year to start that series because there was so much on. Like, I went to a church in County Clare because they were doing a Guinness World Record attempt for the most people called Clare in County Clare. And so my friend Claire and I drove down to this church in the middle of County Clare and just like chilled out in the church while they counted everyone. And they didn't get the world record, but they got the European record. And like, so stuff like that was on all year. And so I did loads of stuff that year. And then I just got a taste for it. I initially had thought, oh, it'll be like a 2-year series. I'll give myself a deadline. I'll say I have to get everything done within 2 years. I had no idea how much there was to do. And I just never wanted to stop it either, so I just didn't.
You've been going for what, 10 years now? Something like that? I mean, it's not going to slow down.
I'm on YouTube, yeah. I'm on YouTube for, it might be 12 now. Is it 2008? Yeah, but I have only been doing the Irish Bucket List since I came home from Australia, which, geez, yeah, I'd say you'd be on 8 years maybe now.
Wow.
I'd have to actually look at the dates. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but it's a long time. And so I guess when I was a full-time like employee and also maintaining a YouTube channel, that was a bit different because, you could only do stuff I could only do stuff at the weekends, and I was kind of editing around work. And so they were a lot more infrequent. Now that I'm a full-time content creator, and I've been like that for the last kind of 3 years, the content's more regular and I'm getting to more things. And so, it sounds like a long time when you say 8 years, but I suppose we have to take into context that I'm only full time at it for kind of 2.5, 3 years.
I'm glad you stuck with it because just real quick, I don't think anybody really realizes how tough it is to pimp a podcast, or even any sort of online content. So just the fact that you stuck with it and decided and got to the point where you were doing full-time stuff is fucking cool and inspiring, and I like seeing creative people doing creative shit. I think it's awesome.
Thank you so much, and like thank you to you as well, because like I couldn't do this without my patrons, without Patreon, just because I'm in Ireland, and yes, I have like a good few Americans watching my stuff, but the AdSense revenue on YouTube in Ireland is so bad. So it's yeah, wouldn't be able to do it on my patrons. So Patreon has really like enabled me to be able to do that community funding. And like, I'd love to get to a stage where I don't need to ask people to support me. I would love to be able to be kind of self-sufficient in that regard. But that being said, so grateful for people that do, and kind of try to give them extra content and figure out what I can do, I guess, above and over the free stuff online. So, you know, you just have to do like bloopers and things like that. But I'm always trying to come up with ideas.
I got to tell you, you sold me. I think you sold me on rugby. Because I was like, I don't know, what sport am I going to check out while I'm there? I kind of want to get involved. I like sports here. I've played rugby before, but I don't understand the rules. But first of all, I had an intro all set up, but we kind of got into it before the intro. Part of it was Irish tag rugby World Cup bronze medalist. So congratulations to you for that.
Thank you so much.
First, yeah. And then the videos that you took from the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. I watched some highlights, but I never really, you got to get into the vibe, I think, before you're going to get into the actual sport a lot of times. And the vibe in that stadium is next level. It's next level with everybody singing, and it's all in unison. I'm on record as saying Irish people party and sing probably better than anybody else. But it was, I mean, you sold me on the rugby. What was that like being there for that? I know they didn't take it all, but seemed to be pretty magical.
Oh, for the actual Rugby World Cup, yeah, it was amazing. The atmosphere was brilliant. Yeah, I would definitely say that rugby is probably the easier one to as an introductory sport. Like if you wanted to see an Irish sport that the whole country plays, then you'd be looking at GA. And you'd either football or hurling. So I would definitely recommend going to at least one of those games while you're over here. But that's a little bit of a different experience, because I would nearly say it's like us versus them county wise. You know what I mean? So to be very like the two counties playing each other, be very, very competitive against each other. And so definitely worth a look. But yeah, if you want that sort of vibe where we're all in it together and we're all singing zombie and all this kind of other stuff, then rugby is the one to go to. I would say that depending on where you are in the country, you could go to like the Aviva in Dublin and you could go see an Ireland game, or you could go down to Thomond Park in Limerick and go see a Munster game. Now the atmosphere, like I genuinely don't think anyone would argue with me that the atmosphere at a Munster game in Thomond Park is out of this world. Like, I've been to one before and it actually blew me away. It's, as far as I'm aware, please don't get mad at me if I'm wrong, whoever's listening, but I'm pretty sure it's a smaller stadium than the Aviva, and it just gives this, like, I don't know what it is. They were singing, with cheering. It was just amazing the last time I was there. And then, of course, as a Connacht girl, I have to recommend that you go to Galway and you go to the sports ground to watch a Connacht match. But,
is
yeah.
that rugby?
Yes, sorry, these are all rugby teams. So the way that rugby works in Ireland is we play as a united Ireland, first of all. So everybody from the 4 provinces plays for Ireland if you play for Ireland. And so we have 4 provinces then. So you've got north, south, east and west, basically. I translated into American. So you've got Ulster up north, and then you've got Connacht west, and then Leinster would be east, and then Munster would be south, sort of. So, not exactly, but kind of. And so those are the 4 provinces: Connacht, Ulster, Leinster, Munster. And definitely, I would say that like Munster atmosphere at Thomond Park in Limerick is amazing for the provincial games.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just plan on checking it all out. I plan on going to the small games. I plan on going to the big games or matches, and it's really just sort of whatever I can find. Any little corner pub or anything. I'm a big fan of whiskey and beer, and I know I'm going to find some gems wherever I go.
Well, I would recommend you try the Whiskey Museum tour if you're in Dublin.
Is
And
that
there are other whiskey tours you can do
you
around
did
the
that
country
video,
as well.
right? You did that video?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, so like obviously I only put a fraction of what the tour is into the video because the whole idea is to not ruin the experience for somebody, to give them like a taste of it so they want to go do it. So there's so much more to that tour that's not included, and obviously each person who does it has a totally different way of telling it and deliverance and all that. So I just thought the whiskey tour was brilliant. I like all the branded ones as well, but I think the branded ones can sometimes be like, we're the greatest whiskey and here's why.
Right.
Whereas the whiskey tour one was like, here's why the history of whiskey is incredibly dark in Ireland, but we love it anyway. And also we did it before Scotland, don't forget.
I didn't think I was ever like a tour person. I like to go check things out kind of on my own time is the way I've always been. And I was like, why do I need to spend the money to go on these tours? But these tours are so good. And I really feel like the tour guides are the selling point in a lot of these, because every single tour I've seen from a video that you've made, the tour guides are rock stars.
Yeah.
They really
Again,
are.
the storytelling, they're just so good at it.
No, I need you to convince me that it's okay not to tip there, because I'm a bartender and I'm a server and it's in me. I over tip.
Yeah,
I over tip,
so
and I
I
have to
had-
get used to it.
Yeah, so I had, okay, two things. First of all, I had a video series on this on Instagram that I caused a huge ruction in the in the Irish community.
Okay.
And I got hate from both sides. So I was like, here's where you should tip, in my opinion and in my experience. And loads of people were like, you're not tipping enough. And then other people were like, you shouldn't tip at all. So it's still a little bit of a divisive topic in Ireland. So I just give that disclaimer up front before anyone sends me any death threats over it. And then also I had an American visitor at one time in a pub, like where we'd gotten food. They were like, I'll get this. And I was like, oh, no worries. And then they said, it's been really weird not tipping here. And I was like, oh no. So the thing is, as again, right, my experience, please listeners, don't go mental, but basically everyone I've spoken to anyway, I live in Dublin, is in agreement that you do tip in certain situations. So for sit down food, like in a restaurant, I would always tip 10% at least. That is just generally what we agree on. I wouldn't tip if I was going like up to the bar individually. I wouldn't tend to tip even if we had a like bar tab. We were well, it's very rare that I have a bar tab that didn't include food, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then again, some people on that post were like, how dare you? You should definitely tip in that situation. But if I was going up one-on-one, I wouldn't. Some people recommend that you can, and then might get better service like the next time you go up. But you definitely don't have to. Some people tip like 10% or whatever if they're getting haircuts or things like that, and some people don't. So again, it's a really divisive thing, but I would say that the majority of people I've talked to do agree that like if you're getting sit down food at a restaurant or a pub or anything like that, where you order the food and then you eat it and then you pay, that you would tip around 10%.
Yeah, we tip 25% here. That's the standard.
That's fucking crazy.
I know.
I'm so sorry. That's actually insane.
I
That's
know.
a quarter price.
Plus, it's like it has spread.
That's crazy.
It's spread to so many other things other than food. I mean, you tip your barber or your hairdresser. You tip the pizza. I mean, you really tip for everything. Is if somebody says, hey, I want to get this for you. Now you go to fucking Subway and it's got, oh, you want to do 15, 20 or custom? And I'm like, well, I'll do 20 because it's, they made my sandwich for me. But again, it's in the culture. You know what I mean? So getting rid of that sort of mindset. I just don't want people to think I'm a douchebag if I tipped like 20% or something like that.
No, well, they're not gonna. They wouldn't think you're a douchebag if you tip 20%. Like, it's always appreciated. Do you know what I mean? Like, the thing about Ireland is that we have a minimum wage and we have people get paid to do work. But you can still. So it's not a replacement like the way that I understand American tipping can kind of be a replacement from paying workers. But the thing is that like you can always tip if you want, and it's always appreciated. And like some people do, as I said, tip in the hairdresser, even if it's like a fiver, they might give like a fiver in the hairdresser, they might give a tip in the taxi. Like you don't have to, but it is always appreciated. But I would just say that for me, I would always tip if I was getting sit down food somewhere. And is there any other times I would always tip? I'm trying to think. It'll come back to me. But there's definitely one or two things where I would like, yeah, I would always tip. Okay. And then there's other times where I will if I can.
Okay, you've convinced me. This is one of the things I psych myself out about. So now.
Well, I think I'm telling you to tip, by the way.
No, I know.
Like, I'm telling you to tip on food, just so we're both on the same page. You don't have to tip 20%, but
I don't think I couldn't.
I wouldn't ever tip in Subway if I was ordering in Subway. That's just.
Well, I never did until they just started offering it on the card thing, and then I'm like, well, I guess I have to. It's stupid.
Yeah, so that would be weird to me. But yeah, if you're like getting served, basically, like if a waitress is coming back and forth, yeah, that's where I would tip. I was in France recently, actually, and we went to Biarritz. So it was for the Rugby World Cup, and we went to Biarritz, and I did a bit of surfing. But when we went into a restaurant there, we assumed they were the same as us. So after we sat down and had a dinner, we tipped 10% or whatever. And like, they were like, your one kind of like goes, oh, tip, and like cheered it out. And then all the servers were like, thank you, like, merci. And I was like, oh my God. So
in a way that because they weren't
so
used to
apparently they don't tip there, and when they do, they're very excited about it.
I think if anybody tips 10% in the United States, they just get cross-eyed looks like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get you out of here soon. I know you got things to do. But I know you know the Irish language. I've seen some of your videos. I listened to the I listened to the Mother Folklore podcast, and you made an appearance on that, and I was stoked to see that. Now, it's dumb that I listened to the Mother Folklore podcast because it doesn't teach you Irish. It talks about nuances within the language. So I listened to it, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to necessarily pick anything up by osmosis, but I might be able to get some tricks or some things when it comes to like name pronunciations. You know what I mean? My biggest fear is just to be mispronouncing names or seeing a name written and just having zero idea how to pronounce it. Are there, probably not, any sort of little tricks that I can take when I see names as far as pronunciations?
If you see a line on the top of the vowel, like we call it a fada, then it's a long vowel. That would be the first tip I'd give you.
Okay.
So, for example, my name is Claire in English, Clare. But in Irish, it's Cla fada or. So it's got a line on the top of it. And so in Irish, it's chlor. So it's a long A.
I see.
So instead of Claire, it's chlor.
What's the name of that little accent again? Say it again.
Fada.
Fada.
Fada. Fada.
Fada. Okay. That helps.
Another quick one, I guess, would be I'm trying to think. In terms of names, I suppose that's the simplest one. There are like other ones to do with Irish where if you have certain letters together, there are H sounds and stuff, but I don't think that's going to help you for names. So that's probably the easiest one for names because, for example, like the name Siobhan has a fada on the A at the end, which is how you know it's an aw.
Okay.
It's not Siobhan. It's Siobhan.
Okay.
That's actually a good example as well because Siobhan, that BH kind of gives a V sound. There is no V in Irish, so that gives the V sound. So it's Siobhan.
What you said? What is it? The B?
So yeah, Siobhan, Siobh, A fada N. The BH gives like a V sound because that's instead of a V. We don't have a V in the Irish language.
Okay.
So things like that. But the easiest one to remember is the fada, and then that'll just give you a much better indication of how to pronounce that, at least that part of it.
Those are practical tips, and I cannot thank you enough. Claire, you have been awesome, for real. You didn't have to reach out, but you did, and I love the fact that that I'm chatting with you, and I wish you nothing but good things. Clisair, Clisair.com, on YouTube, the Storytime with Clisair podcast, a tri-channel contributor, and what else? There was something else. Oh, you're doing personalized itineraries for people, right? Going to Ireland. Am I getting that right or wrong?
Yeah. So I've done a couple of them now already. I initially started out thinking they were just going to be like things to do. So I just asked for people's like likes and dislikes. So for example, if you're like my husband and you hate water, I'm obviously not going to include any water-based activities. So like I just asked for like likes and dislikes, and then I kind of do like a customized, here's what you could do while you're in for these dates. But actually I got somebody order one recently that was food. So that was new.
Really?
And yeah, I got them like a customized sort of food bucket list, I guess, where they told me where they were going to be in the country, and they were like, we like seafood. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get you the best seafood in like Galway, wherever. And yeah, so hopefully they liked it. But yeah, I do customized itineraries, and I so far I haven't turned a request down. So whatever you want.
All right. Well, how else can they find you, and what else do you got going on that you want to get out?
Well, I would just say clisair.com. You can find me by searching the Irish bucket list, which is just the easiest way if you can't remember. Clisair is that's a bit of an unusual nickname, I suppose. But CLISARE.com is my website, and it kind of has everything there. And yeah, you should be able to find everything. Nothing really in particular going on, just in general pumping out content on YouTube. So check me out there. And feel free to request if you have anything you want to see.
Claire, thank you. I really appreciate you, and you have a wonderful day, and do all the awesome things.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with your podcast, and I can't wait to hear it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, take it easy. Again, cannot thank Claire enough for coming on. And if you have not checked out any of her content, by all means, check it out. If you're planning on going to Ireland, you want to check out all sorts of stuff that you've never heard of before in Ireland. And of course, the Tri Channel, which is easily one of my favorite things I've found in a very long time. Some of my favorite programming that I've found. Any medium, TV, radio, whatever, the Tri Channel, of course, as well. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. Patreon link is in the description if you want to contribute to the journey. And then, of course, reaction videos on the channel and the What the Hell Everything podcast as well. Spotify, if you do choose to download for a commute, that's available as well. Link is in the description. And I can't thank you enough. Have a good one. What the hell, everything?